I love classical music and would love to share it, especially through my own compositions, with others from the whole world. And when I listen to a symphony, I imagine that I am the conductor.
A child with a dream. That was me, just 11 years old. I actually feel a little embarrassed showing you this clip now, but it's a good starting point for what I would like to talk about. You can see how passionate I was about classical music, even then, and how I've always dreamt of becoming a conductor. I simply just love standing in front of a large group of musicians and be the one inspiring them to interpret great orchestral works. Many people think this kind of passion in classical music is unusual for a 14-year-old. They ask me questions like, how long do you have to practice every day? Do you have any friends? Do you play any video games? Do you even go outside, at all? I guess they're just trying to figure out how normal I am. Well, I do like spending time with my friends. I love electronics, and there probably was nobody more obsessed with Game of Thrones than me. Classical music just is my way of communicating without words. And to do this, I make it my own by performing, by interpreting, by conducting, or by composing. But anyone can make classical music their own, simply by listening. Classical music conveys a range of emotions and tells stories, but it also reflects your own ideas, your own memories, and your own stories. Basically, your own fragile soul. Let me give you some examples. Close your eyes and think of a very painful moment. Maybe you lost someone you truly loved, perhaps a beloved grandfather or grandmother. Or if you're lucky enough not to have lost someone, then just think of the last season of Game of Thrones. That should be enough to make anyone cry. Now, listen to the pain in the Sibelius violin concerto. Heartbreaking, isn't it? Do you feel how universal, yet incredibly individual these emotions are? Do you see how the feelings attached to your personal story get amplified through the music? Let me give you another example. Let's move on to a piece of classical music that allows you to celebrate a moment of triumph in your life. Getting the top grade in math, or winning a bet with a friend, or even getting to the next stage of your tricky computer game. It doesn't matter how trivial it is. It's your victory, no one else's. Think of that while listening to a section of Les Préludes by Franz Liszt. Do you feel it? That is what triumph sounds like. Unfortunately, music can not only be used to amplify your emotions, it can also be used to manipulate them. In this very case, the Nazis stole this triumphant tune and used it to announce their weekly army broadcasts. It was used to support the propaganda about Germany winning the war. But not only the Nazis, also other tyrants, such as Stalin, have tried to use classical music to convey a message, to tell a particular story. Stalin commissioned Shostakovich to write a majestic symphony in celebration of the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany. The composer was ordered to use a huge orchestra, including quadruple woodwinds, massive brass, as well as a choir and soloists to hail the leader. And since this, coincidentally, would be Shostakovich's Ninth Symphony, everyone expected a large-scale work of epic proportions, just like Beethoven's Ninth. Triumph wasn't just expected, no, it was demanded. Well, his symphony turned out to be completely different. In fact, the last movement ends with grotesque circus music. As you can imagine, Stalin was deeply offended when he heard it. Isn't this incredible? Instead of the grandeur of a historic military victory, we hear the humble absurdity of a circus. When you close your eyes, you practically can see the clowns, the artists, the animals. They're all there. Shostakovich once told a friend that he was simply incapable of writing a piece in praise of Stalin. In fact, he went even further. In his music, he criticized the dictator without having to use a single word. Can you imagine the fear he must have lived in, but also the courage that he showed by putting how he really felt into his music? Coming back full circle to the opening clip, when I was that child with a dream, my favorite composer was Beethoven, and I'm still absolutely mesmerized by him. I especially love the story attached to the second movement of his fourth piano concerto. People say he was inspired by the story of Orpheus, a legendary musician in ancient Greece. In mythology, Orpheus is known for his ability to charm all living things, and even stones, with his music. In this story, he yearns for his dead wife, Eurydice, who has been dragged down to the underworld by the gods. So he decides to go and beg the gods to return her, and because of his beautiful music, they grant his wish, at least for a moment. You see, even the gods could be enchanted by the power of music. In the orchestral version, the strings seem to represent the gods, while the piano is Orpheus himself. Let me play for you. So, the whole movement starts out with the strings which represent the gods, brutal, nasty, and harsh. Orpheus, pleading and soft. Throughout the piece, this dialogue continues, and each time the gods get softer and softer until they're finally convinced. We, the young people in this room today, find ourselves in a very privileged and technologically advanced time, but the essentials of being human are still the same as when Beethoven and Mozart lived. We still have the same need to express our emotions and ideas, the same need to connect with each other, and the same need for novelty, new perspectives, and inspiration, especially now when so much is experienced digitally and therefore remotely. Classical music is a very powerful medium for all of this. Now, more than ever, it is important to follow the stories and the music like an emotional treasure hunt for our own development. Even a single instrument can create a lot of emotion which is why I'd like to play a short section of Chopin's second scherzo for you. While listening, I invite you to close your eyes. Think of your own story and make this music your own. Thank you.